Hey guys, how's it going? It's Al. Welcome to my fantasy football channel, the Al Smizzle fantasy football channel on the Al Smizzle YouTube family of networks. That's really lame, but it is what it is. We're going to draft a 0 RB team today on Draftkings in their $3.5 million, $1 million to first, $5 to enter best ball draft on DraftKings.com. If you have not played best ball before, it's a war of attrition. You draft 20 rounds on DraftKings. It's full DraftKings scoring, which means full PPR with bonuses for 100 yards rushing, 300 yards passing, 100 yards receiving. My plan was not to draft a 0 RB team with this, but that's just the way that the draft shook out. So like, you have to be nimble and be ready to shift. Let me know what you think about this draft in the comments section down below. And while you're here, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. We're approaching 1,000 subs on the channel. We got to get to those 4,000 hours watched as well. So thank you guys for taking this journey with me this offseason as we move the season-long content off the main channel and onto this brand new fantasy football channel. Thank you guys for being here. Let's go.
He's a legend.
How lovely. Our draft filled on DraftKings. We're going to be doing this best ball draft on DraftKings, a $5 draft, $3.5 million tournament, $1 million to first. You also, if you win the whole thing, you get a tournament of champions. Hey guys, we got the 8th pick. How exciting. I've never seen anything like this before. Did I name all my teams on Underdog this year? No, not yet. I've only drafted 12 teams on Underdog so far. So for those of you who watched the Underdog draft that we drafted out of the 8-hole the other day, now you're going to watch me draft on DraftKings out of the 8-hole. DraftKings, a 20-round draft as opposed to an 18-round draft. Full PPR with bonuses. It's basically 100% DraftKings scoring. Yes, I know that it is. Thank you. I know. What are you doing? What even are you doing, DraftKings? Pick history. Yeah, you have to go to pick history to see draft. There's no boards. You can see everybody's team like in one spot. 8th pick is perfect for a chief stack. I play it by ear the first couple of rounds, and then like the team kind of makes itself. Austin Eckler. One thing that's different for me personally, I have not curated my draft list yet. I will, but like, because it's not a simple CSV upload, I have to do it by hand. It takes like an hour, especially with like, latent ADD where like I'll do like 30 picks and then I just get exhausted, like moving players around on the list. I have to like go do something else. Christian McCaffrey goes 5, 6 pick on the clock. I'm interested to see where I go with this draft. I don't know where I'm going to go. Being very honest, I really don't know where I'm going to go. There's no way. How'd they let me do this? I'm getting one of them. Just tell me which one I get. Tell me which one I get and I'm fine. Which one do I get? Oh my God, I have my choice of either. Now I don't know what to do. I mean, I kind of know what to do. I'm taking Justin Jefferson. Jefferson over Chase for me. I know that Chase is a shiny new toy and he's the thing that everybody wants. But like, I personally don't know if this could happen, right? Jamar Chase could very realistically out-target Justin Jefferson. I personally don't see that happening. I think that Justin Jefferson's going to get 160 to 180 targets. And Jamar Chase, based on the nature of his route tree, will probably get somewhere between 140 and 160. So I target targets. I want the guy with the higher upside. On the main channel, posted a video of the difference in strategies between Underdog and DraftKings. The majority of that is Underdog because of the nature of the scoring system.
He's a legend.
Vinny, thank you for the 20 months. Is this a real league or a mock? I don't mock draft. Play things against people for money. Sophomore slump, I don't buy into that. I stick with numbers, not narratives. DK has a league now. They've had one. Big reach on Leonard Fournette. This draft is already off the rails. It's already off the rails. So because it's off the rails, I could take CD Lamb here at 17. We did the draft where I took Josh Allen, but I'm not taking Josh Allen this one. I think I can kind of wait. I think Mark Andrews kind of runs away with things at tight end. Jefferson and Andrews, I'm drafting only purple uniformed players. That's the theme of this team so far. Correlation, right? We're going to correlate uniform colors. Does going Jefferson there give you a better shot at a stack with the quarterback over Chase? No, I would just have to mark and draft that quarterback, right? I would just have to decide that that's what I'm doing. But I feel like Burrow is being overdrafted, and I really like Joe Burrow. But I feel like where he's being drafted on ADP is fueled by that playoff run, by the fact that he's Cool Joe, he's Joe Cool, he's got a Nike necklace, it's diamonds, he said it was. He wears cool sunglasses and fancy clothes, and it's like for him to justify that pick, he'd have to throw for 5,000 yards and 45 touchdowns, which like could happen. But there's other guys who run the ball. Like he can't go where he goes, but Tom Brady goes in the 9th round. He can't go in the 5th with Tom Brady going in the 9th and the numbers that Tom Brady puts up. Does that make more sense? So like, I like Joe Burrow. I think that the price is off. James Conner going at pick 25, as we said multiple times before, flying up draft boards. Can somebody please take Josh Allen? Because like, if Josh Allen's available at pick 32, okay, thank you. Like, if he's available to me at pick 32, I didn't want Josh Allen, but like, if you leave him out there a round and a half later, I'm probably going to take Josh Allen. So now I can kind of stick to the plan. What's the plan? You'll find out. Let's look at running backs. Barkley, Montgomery, Elliott, Breece Hall, Gibson, Jacobs. Running back is somewhat deep and runs into the 50s so far this year. Wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Higgins, Waddle, Pittman, Williams, Brown. A lot of guys that get a lot of targets. Quarterbacks, Mahomes, Herbert, Lamar at 45, yada, yada, yada. You've seen a strategy out there about double QB studs and chill. I mean, a little too aggressive. Saquon there. Now, DraftKings, you can go running backs early. 100%. Very viable strategy. You can go running backs early. You can do however you want, but I would not draft more than 2 running backs in the top 10 rounds. George Kittle, I'm going to take the value. I'm just going to value snipe, and I'm going to take AJ Brown here. We know how good he is. I'm going to value snipe, and again, full PPR with bonuses. Andrews, Brown, Jefferson clearly have the same bye weeks here, but like, not going to matter all that much unless I draft 6 wide receivers with a week 7 bye week. That's the only way that. T. Higgins still on the board. Patrick Mahomes with an ADP of 31. Herbert with a 35. Both still on the board, especially after Josh Allen fell. Wide receivers may fall a little bit more in this draft. There goes Mahomes. See, I don't like the UI is not as good as I want it to be. It's not as good as I'm used to from DraftKings, and it hasn't changed in their 3rd year of running best ball. Michael Pittman, a good late season, bring back a good late season standalone in best ball. They have a great pace of play. Look out for that video probably by either the end of this week or next week. We're going to talk about some guys. DJ Moore, another guy in that same exact boat. Good late season sort of attack play. Ezekiel Elliott goes there, possibly saving me from myself. I am going to take Lamar Jackson in this spot. I could go David Montgomery. I could go Williams, but I'm going Lamar. This is an odd draft for me. I've got my primary quarterback stack with Andrews and Jackson. I have 2 absolute stud wide receivers. And on DraftKings, full PPR, I want as many superstar wideouts and superstar pass catchers as I can get. Is Michael Thomas being slept on? Good question. We don't know is really the problem right now with him. We don't know where he's at. They brought in, they drafted Olave and they brought in Jarvis Landry. He may be gone. They may just release. They may trade. They may get rid of him. On paper, that offense looks outstanding with Thomas and Landry on the outside, bringing along Olave, just giving weapons to Winston to throw to, and as always, having Alvin Kamara in the backfield. But like, is the bridge not mendable between that team and Michael Thomas? Is his injury worse than expected? Like, what's going on there is really the question that we have to ask ourselves, because I don't know. I honestly don't. Tampa's wide receiver group is still intact. Yes, with Antonio Brown becoming Russ Gage. Justin Herbert going at pick 45. Is Killa a downhill running back IRL? Yes, and you know who used to be, but he fell off, is his brother, Tagilla. Used to be a real downhill running back, would run to contact, and then all of a sudden, not so much anymore. If Godwin's out half the year with an ACL, Thomas to Tampa would be interesting. Yes. So 5 picks here. A lot of wide receivers in this spot. Top running back on the board, Travis Etienne, Mitchell, Patterson, Dillon, all going later in the draft. So I did not intend for this team to be a 0 RB build, but like, here we are with a 0 RB build. Terry McLaurin just went at pick 54. Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton still on the board for somebody who is looking to go. Eli Mitchell just went. Chat knows what I'm going to do. As soon as I make this pick, chat knows what I'm going to do, or what I'd like to do. So we're full on 0 RB at this point. Actually, we have half a running back. We have Lamar. So it's not 0 RB like totally. We can catch the ball though. So a 0 RB draft out of one that I really didn't intend to be a 0 RB draft. I kind of was going to take Ezekiel Elliott, and he got picked right up from under me. Allen Robinson going there, pick 59. Clearly Baker with my next pick. Yes. But I leave myself out. I've got AJ Brown. I could easily go Jalen Hurts here. I've also got Amari Cooper. I could go Deshaun Watson later. Travis Etienne was who I wanted to pick there. I'm not putting my queued up players on the board just in case somebody knows who I am and, you know, they want to be a knower, come kind of stream snipe. So there's no point. Jerry Jeudy, go Knowles 2000. I don't see any Knowles on the board here, so it's going to be interesting to see who he takes. Is McCaffrey out in the player pool? No, McCaffrey is 100% in. Brandon Cooks, perennial value in the mid 60s. I'm going to take Rashad Bateman here. I've got Lamar and I've got Andrews and I've now got Bateman, and there's nobody else that can really catch balls there. So like all in on Baltimore. Tom Brady, Miley Virus, 100% knows who I am. Yeah, of course. It's going to be interesting to see where people go with their picks and like what they kind of build out. But I have ways that I can go. So like here's what I was saying, right? Always leave yourself outs. I've got my primary stack. Jackson, Andrews, Bateman. As goes this Baltimore offense, so goes this particular team. But I give myself outs. I could have drafted Hurts. I can still draft Cousins. I can still draft legal problems. There's a lot of ways that I can go and still draft Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of ways that I can go. And there were other teams that we talked about right before this recording, where the players start going around rounds 9, 10, 11 to build out later round picks. There goes Jalen Hurts, pick 73. Dak Prescott. There was that Michael Thomas pick like we kind of talked about earlier. Top players on the board. And now I also have this tight end spot with one of the premium 4 that we had spoken about also off the recording on this video, where like if I get one of these guys, I don't really feel the need to draft another tight end until much later. And I don't need to bunch tight end. Same thing goes when I draft an elite quarterback. I don't need to. Now, there are some teams where I go after 2 elite guys if one of them falls, like Russ Wilson. If you were going to get Jerry Jeudy is fine. He's amazing. But I can build other different type of builds here without really having to worry, about a lot of Elijah Moore breakout. I mean, yes, I think so. I like that Jets offense. There goes Cordero. A.J. Dillon, top running back on the board, followed by Harris, then Edwards-Helaire. I'm going to go with Edwards-Helaire in this spot because even though he has underwhelmed for many years, he is still the primary running back. I'm assuming at 60% of the time for this Kansas City team. We expected him, everybody kind of expected him to be a massive target getter, right? Somebody who's going to be targeted out of the backfield a ton, and that just never materialized for him in that Chiefs offense. I'm not saying it's suddenly going to materialize this year, but the amount of usage that you're going to get from him or project to get from him this season should at least be usable, more so than what they used him in the playoffs. I'm hoping for this type of usage with a little bit of bump here. If he gets between 3.5 and 5 targets per game with 13, 14 carries, he's more than viable at the draft price that we had to lock him in at. He's underwhelmed since the combine. He's just underwhelmed on this team. Running backs are all about usage. Volume is all that matters. People overrate a lot of other things. The only thing that really matters, Miles Sanders, Kenneth Walker at pick 88. I don't think he typically goes that high. I think that's a bit of a reach for him. It's funny that we just had this conversation, but I'm going to go with Tony Pollard in this spot. Again, I draft the 40% running backs, guys that have a job. Ezekiel Elliott, this is his job. He is the main guy. But when Tony Pollard gets this sort of usage, 8 to 12 carries a game, 3 to 5 targets a game, he's already very viable in that offense. Now, my typical rule is on DraftKings, I don't draft more than 2 running backs in the first 10 rounds. But I am willing to alter that when I go with a 0 RB build. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've drafted 8 rounds. I've got 2 running backs. I may go with a 3rd in the 9th or the 10th round just because if that's the value that's out there. But I'm still drafting for top value and top volume that I can find without ridiculously reaching. There's Sky Moore for Kansas City. Has been going between 85 to 95. Are you crazy to think Pollard is actually better than Zeke? We had this whole discussion. Rewind the stream a little bit back in the VOD. We went through this whole thing for like 10 minutes, not that long ago, right before this draft started. So now I'm going to have a decision here. Trust me, we got into it. So now we're going to have a decision at this pick. But remember what I said? You can get quality quarterbacks later. Matthew Stafford, 2-time defending MVP, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, playing in that division 6 games against Kansas City, the Chargers, and Denver. You can get quarterbacks late. You can get the guys you want later, that you don't have to go nuts on somebody like Joe Burrow, because can you honestly say, with the ridiculous weapons that Joe Burrow has, the upscale of his career, the amount of money that they spend on the offensive line, I get it. I get all of it. But can you without a doubt say that he is going to post better fantasy numbers because he's not a running quarterback? So he doesn't have that buoying his floor and giving him this ridiculous ceiling due to additional rushing touchdowns, possibly like the 7 or 8 other rushing touchdowns, rushing quarterbacks that can end up with 5 to 10 rushing touchdowns. But Matthew Stafford, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, Tom Brady, are you sure that Burrow's not going to end up with similar stats to those other 4 guys? Now, last year, Burrow at the 9th, 10th round, we were all in. Burrow in the 5th, I'm less I'm less interested in that 5th round. I am going to take Deshaun Watson here as my QB2 to go with this stack. That's the first Deshaun Watson share that I've drafted. Legal problems aside, all that other stuff, bad human, good football player. If he plays 16, 17 games, he's going to post numbers. If he misses half the season due to a suspension, then he is not going to post numbers. So realistically speaking, I'm going to have to draft a QB3 here so that I don't lock myself up. However, DraftKings being 20 rounds versus the 18 rounds on Underdog allows that, where you can go with a, 5 running back, 8 wide receiver, 3 quarterback, 3 tight end draft and still have one more pick to split between your wide receiver and your running back wherever you feel that you kind of, need that guy to fill in. Here's what's left on the board. I could have also gone with Cousins in that spot. I still might, but I'm not going to this round. Aaron Rodgers just went. Carr is a little bit of a run on them. On the quarterbacks at that point, maybe kicked off by the one that I took. I think Stevenson might have to be my guy here. I like Carter. I especially like Carter for his pass catching ability. I really like Madison as well. Going with this 0 RB approach, we're going to kind of take these guys at this spot, and I'm going to have to draft 6 running backs with this team in the hopes that some of them can be viable. I think that Stevenson has a good chance to take over that job this season from Damian Harris, who performed really well last year, but from the looks of everything, it does look like Stevenson is a little bit more explosive and a lot more versatile, although Harris has been really good at breaking tackles and being a bowling ball and bouncing off a dude. Freiermuth seems overdrafted to me. It feels like he's overdrafted. I'm trying to manage this draft while also chatting with you guys. So sometimes I get lost, and I especially get lost, one, on DraftKings because of the UI, and I have to scroll all over the place constantly. And 2, when I'm drafting live on stream and I'm not able to just mark 15 players in my queue because, some people are knowers and they come and watch your stream and they see who you want just so that they can try and pick players off from you and stream snipe. So I'm not able to queue up everybody like I would normally want to queue people up and run my draft the way I run my draft. But I think our draft is looking pretty good so far, especially in terms of it being a 0 RB draft. Let's take a look at top tight ends: Gesicki, Gronk, Henry, Tunyon, Kmet, Irv, Higbee, Fant, same guys that are basically there in this range all the time. Top QBs: Kirk Cousins, Tua, Fields, Lawrence, Winston, Matt Ryan, Zach Wilson going around pick 153. So there will be a run coming up a little bit later on these guys. Top wide receivers: Tyler Boyd is a nice bring back, for a couple of teams that they play in the playoffs. We also talked about how Kansas City has some fast-paced games later in the year. Jarvis Landry at 130 in New England is a really solid pick at wide receiver. Running backs left available: Jones, Pierce, Robinson, Algier, and then you're getting into a lot of backup type guys who, though guys like Hines and McKissick do carry a little bit more value on DraftKings because of their usefulness in the passing game. The problem is you're not going to get too many spike weeks or spike week opportunities out of them because of the lack of the inside the 5 carries from players like that. With that profile, you can watch me draft every day until the season starts. We're going to be doing some of these days where I'm going to draft one on each site, live on stream on Twitch. Go to smizzle.tv/live. Go give me a follow over there if you have not already. And then obviously these videos will be uploaded to YouTube, where most of you are probably watching right now. And thank you for watching. I appreciate that. So drop a like on the video if you're still here at this point. Subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell. Welcome to the Fantasy Football channel. This is where we do the things. I'm going to take Kirk Cousins here as my QB3. He lines up in terms of bye weeks for me. I know that there's still value on the board because it's DraftKings. And the question mark of whether Watson plays, Cousins is fine. Lamar is a stud. Deshaun Watson could also be that top 5 QB, assuring me a 25-point quarterback week more often than not. It's not a spot where I have to wonder and hope. And there's still players out there, running back, at wide receiver, at tight end, that I feel like I can get stuff out of. So I'm going to sort by flex now since I don't need any more quarterbacks. Matt Ryan going pretty early there at 129. Jameson Williams for Detroit, the speedy wide receiver. 4th wall break. A well-timed 4th wall break is extremely underrated. Now, running backs can certainly carry you on draft. Specifically, the running backs that get you 20 touches to 25 touches with 6-7 targets a game, right? Those guys are beyond. Alvin Kamara's, Christian McCaffrey when healthy. Those guys certainly carry you, right? Alvin Kamara, Austin Eckler, any of those top tier guys carry you week in, week out, because the floor of volume from their catches and the touchdown upside and everything else that goes along with being the primary RB1 on a team gets you there more often than not. Hell, Leonard Fournette was one of the most powerful running backs on DraftKings last season in best ball and in the regular season because of how much he was utilized in the passing game. And still, because he was in a great offense, carried with him that touchdown upside, 100-yard possibility for that 3-point bonus. So getting those guys can certainly be key. We're not getting anybody like that late. Edwards-Helaire could kind of be that guy, but never has gotten that sort of usage. Pierce was the guy that I was thinking about drafting in this spot. I'm going to get one of the two guys that I want here. But there are other running backs that we can get. This is a pure zero running back team, and we're going to have some iffy guys from running back 4, 5, and 6 on this team. But hopefully the wide receivers and the tight ends and the quarterbacks can carry it. And maybe I get a breakout from one of these running backs, because Jarvis Landry is just staring me in the face at this point. Rondale Moore is the sexier, younger, everybody likes him, but like he turns into a number 3 option and possibly a number 4 option behind Zach Ertz. Once Nuke Hopkins comes back, DeAndre Hopkins comes back in week 7 after his suspension, where Jarvis Landry, with or without Michael Thomas, is going to get me 6 targets a game, week in, week out. And if Michael Thomas is not on the Saints this year, we're possibly talking about 8 targets a game plus for Jarvis Landry, or at least consistently 7-8 targets a game for him in that spot. So it's a safe pick with a ceiling. I like Crowder there as well. Irv Smith was somebody else I was thinking about targeting. But there's enough tight ends to go with my, to build in a little correlation with my QB3, who is Smith. Would have been fine. Not a totally necessary thing in that spot, but like he was somebody that I would have liked to have gotten. But I think getting a primary point scoring, 100-yard receiving is interesting. Connor could potentially get there too, plus Cardinals goal line use. So I don't think that Connor out targets Moore. I hated the way they used Rondale Moore last season, like never throwing him the ball past the line of scrimmage. It was gross. I think that changes, especially the first 6 weeks of this without Hopkins, right? Where Marquise Brown's going to be the primary outside threat. Zach Ertz is going to be the primary inside threat. I think that Rondale Moore becomes the tertiary option, the third guy in that offense that they're going to look at, which should be like a 15% market share of the targets. And then James Conner probably getting about 13%. But then once Hopkins comes back, we could be looking at an 8 to 9% target for it could get really ugly, and it could get really ugly really quickly. So I'm not thrilled. Like I have some Rondale Moore shares, but like I'm really not thrilled. Jarvis Landry could get 22, 23, 24% of the target market share in as a ceiling, right? I'm not expecting him to ever get to like 27 to 30. But I also don't think he's going to fall below 17, 18, even with Michael Thomas there. I think he gets 17, 18 with him, and then even more. Oh, you're comparing Connor to Lenny? Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I like both of those guys. I like Connor, Lenny, Elliott, all in that range. So like I'll go wide receiver, or wide receiver tight end in rounds 1 and 2, and then come back with like Connor and Ezekiel Elliott, or Lenny and Ezekiel Elliott in rounds 3 and 4, and feel fine about my teams up front. I very rarely draft full-on 0 running back teams anymore. Usually it's hero running back. I'll go with Robinson, even though he's coming back from injury. I believe that Etienne's going to be the primary guy, but Robinson as a 40% role with the potential for injury in front of him. Neither of those guys were drafted by this regime, so kind of anything can happen. Him being, what is he, my running back 3, running back 4 on this team? Yeah, behind Stevenson. So I've got Pollard, Edwards-Helaire, Robinson, Stevenson. I'm going to have to bring 2 more running backs to the table on this team, and I guarantee you they're going to be ugly. That's just the way that it's going to work. They're not going to be really pretty running backs at this point. I have 3 quarterbacks, 4 running backs, 5 wide receivers, 1 tight end. Dotson, DJ Chark. Speaking of guys that are going kind of late, J.D. McKissick, pass-catching only running back. George Pickens goes there. Darrell Henderson Jr. The Lions did boost their team this offseason. Like, they could have done a lot of things. I think that they did well. I think they did very, very well. I'm going to go with Corey Davis. Corey Davis and the amount of targets that he should get here, 5 picks behind ADP, but like it's not that much, considering what round we're in. 5 picks at ADP means a lot in like the second round. It means less in like the 12th, 13th rounds. So like Corey Davis last season was getting a very solid amount of targets. And again, 26-point game, 24-point game, 14-point game, 13-point game on a team that I think moves forward offensively this season, with a quarterback who should potentially get much better. David Bell just went there at 170. No, he's still on the board. I wish it was better. Top tight ends available. Everett, Ingram. Let's mark him. Let's mark him. Let's mark him. Him. I think Brait is very interesting. One of these guys just got picked. Hayden Hurst just went at pick 166. Sure, Brevin, Bronklin, and then just a bunch of stuff. Top running backs available. I think Davis Price is very interesting. Williams, Marlon Mack for Houston, Ingram for Arizona, Robinson Jr., Zamir White, Sony Michel, and just a bunch of guys. Just marking off guys that I kind of target at this point in the draft with no real. Odell Beckham Jr., David Bell. I think Dallas really wanted Tolbert, and there are some targets that are there to be had. Marvin Jones Jr. with an ADP of 181. Curtis Samuel. Will Fuller without a team. Julio Jones without a team. Him with a team. These are all guys that I'm targeting kind of late in drafts. Oh, look, there go all the running backs I marked. Carson Wentz at pick 174. There goes Odell. I'm going to go with David Bell here. Then I have a comeback spot. So David Bell giving me a double stack. David Bell, Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper. That builds out my secondary double. I have my primary, Lamar Jackson, Bateman, Andrews, and then my third quarterback, Cousins, to go with my first round pick. You only draft players who show up to OTAs in the best shape of their lives. It is best shape of their life season. It is something that we need to take into account for. You forgot Cooper's on Cleveland now. Now the Cooper stack makes sense, huh? Khalil Herbert, Tolbert, Logan, more Lamb touches. I mean, I don't see how he doesn't. The guy that I think takes the largest leap forward, I think that Lamb is going to just be awesome, but he was already awesome. Zamir White going at 181. Joshua Palmer, Raheem Mostert. Roll down a little bit. Once again, I end up drafting Jamal Williams in that spot. I don't love that pick. I would have rather had a couple of the other guys that have a higher upside. Gallup isn't back to start. We don't know. Anybody with a season-ending injury from the year before, like the way that these recoveries have gone, we have an expected time frame, but everybody's different. So there's some guys, even though an injury might have an 11-month recovery time, some guys come back in 8 months. Some guys, it takes 15 months. So it's the individual. It's the, do they have a complication from the procedure? Did they have to have a follow-up procedure? You know, how hard did they go in rehab? These are all things that we mostly do not know. And so most people will find out when camp opens, like, oh yeah, he had an ACL, but he should be back. And like, okay, he's not back and he's probably not going to be back until week 4. You're like, well, I've been drafting him here because I kind of figured he'd be back by camp, but like maybe they aren't. Jimmy Garoppolo at pick 189. Aggressive, very aggressive. One of the guys on the Rangers tore his ACL 6 months ago and he's practicing with the team. Yeah, I mean, what about Cam Akers, who tore his his Achilles in the summer right before camp, right? Like in OTAs, like before camp, and then he was back by the playoffs. Achilles used to just wreck your career. You were just done. In the last few years, like now guys are starting to come back from it because the surgery has changed and technology has improved. It still takes a lot longer than guys are taking to actually come back from this injury. Yeah, Adrian Peterson, Cam Akers, Kevin Durant. Durant came back and doesn't look like he ever had it. Kobe came back and all of a sudden his vert was like 8 inches lower. It's different now. You know, as the surgeries get better, as the tools get better, as the technology changes, things kind of recovery times differ. And a lot of the time it comes down to the person. Sometimes people are they're fast healers. Some guys work harder in rehab than others. I'm not saying anybody's lazy. And sometimes it's a combination. Maybe you get a fast healer who works really hard. Maybe you have somebody who's a slow healer who doesn't really grind his butt off in PT, and it takes him a little bit longer. It just is what it is. Tyquan Thornton. I'm going to take Sony Michel, and I have a confession to make. I have no idea who Tyquan Thornton is. Apparently, he plays wide receiver for the New England Patriots. Who knew? You learn something new every day. Legit, no idea who that guy is. Not saying it's a bad pick. I'm just saying I didn't know who he was. Yeah, Peterson came back and but was that from like an ACL? I forget if it was the ACL or the Achilles. He came back and won the MVP. He was like the last running back to win the MVP. Yeah, Tyquan, totally, that guy. Fast as hell. Yeah, I mean, it's the NFL. A lot of guys are fast. I wonder how fast, what is the fastest 4x100 team that you could put on the track? I know everybody's going to say Tyreek. So who are those guys? Edwards there, and then I'm going to piece together Metcalf. Yeah. Okay, so Metcalf, Tyreek. Give me 2 more. Who are the other, who are the 4-1, 4-2? It doesn't have to be a wide receiver. It can be a cornerback, guys. All right, what What about Conley? Didn't Chris Conley run like a 4.2? Mecole Hardman's got to be in there maybe, or at least in the running. Jalen Waddle, right? Like, isn't that John Ross? Yeah. AC rookie? Sky Moore? No, I don't think he's that. He was like 4.4 fast, right? You know, Marquise Goodwin, obviously. Is he still in the NFL though? Like the guy who has the Olympic ring tattoos on him? Yeah, like he'd be on that. Like legit Olympic sprinter. Yeah, he'd have to be on that list. Dude had a 4.2 140. All right. Marquise signed it. All right. He signed with Seattle. Nice. If you took a 4x100 team that we built of NFL players, where would they finish? I mean, they don't run this race, you know, in the Olympic trials. They just pick the 4 sprinters and they turn them into a relay. Where do you think they would rank in like an all-American 4x100 race? Would they medal? The track guys would have to win, right? The professional track guys, they'd come in first. The Olympians, they'd clearly come in first. That's their arena. But like, would they medal as a 4x? Last seems aggressive. They'd come in last. I don't care who's in the race. They'd come in last. In the Olympics, I think they'd come in last. I'm just saying in last adjacent. Marcus Mariota, I think, is a really good late round pick in these drafts. I'm going to take Gronklin. Top 5 finishes to see. Yeah, they aren't winning. The question is, would they be on the podium? Would they medal? Probably did not finish. They'd finish. They can all run 100 yards. Or are you saying they'd fumble the baton? You agree with the sentiment that we should just have a random dad compete in each event to show people how insane Olympians are? Yes. Metcalf ran 100 meters in 10.36 for 9th place. Yeah, but they get a running start in a relay. The start is a lot, right? Like getting out of the blocks is a lot. You get to like run for 20 yards in a relay. I think they would actually, as a team, compete better in a relay than they would in individual. Also, as always, I could be wrong. I'm not saying that they would medal. I'm saying that I think they would do better in a relay versus a straight up. Jack Doyle's going to ruin somebody's day, isn't he? He's totally going to ruin somebody's day. Some team's going to sign him and it's just going to ruin somebody's summer. Like, yeah, I got the tight end one. I got a whole lot of shares, and then they bring in like Jack Doyle, and the dude goes from playing like expected 75 or 80% of the snaps playing like 25. DK Metcalf is a fast individual. Buda Baker. Maybe go with Bryant. The tight ends at 2 and 3 are ugly, but I think I might have the number 1 tight end on the season, and I've got him paired with his quarterback. So we're going to take a look at this team as soon as this round is over. 20 rounds is a lot. 240 picks is a lot. You're kind of scraping at round 18, but like there's some stuff left. But like at the end of a DraftKings draft, right? Like top player right now, Washington, Cobb, James White, Haskins, Mo Alley, McKenzie, Shep, not drafted, Carson, Gio, Beasley, Justin Ross, Robinson. Like, it's not strong. It's not strong. Been an hour. It's been close. A lot of people going to 30th. Ended up with 3, 6, 8, 3, which is typically where I end these DraftKings drafts. At 3 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends, 6 running backs, and 8 wide receivers. Kind of just like I said that I would. We have some solid, I believe that we have some solid correlation with this team. So a 0 RB build. Lamar Jackson, Edwards-Helaire and Pollard are the running backs 1 and 2, but like it's a team effort here, guys. Wide receivers, very strong. Justin Jefferson, AJ Brown, Andrews is the starting tight end with Bateman off the bench. So a double stack for Lamar. Bench QB2, Deshaun Watson, QB3, Kirk Cousins. Again, the backup running backs in this team, I have 6, and they're all going to have to chip in. Hopefully, I can get 20 points per week out of these running backs on average. I'm going to need it, and the wide receivers and quarterbacks are going to have to carry, the hard carry here. Stevenson, we have Landry behind them. Robinson as a 40% running back early. Corey Davis was tons of volume in an offense that I think is going to go up this year, up arrow offense. David Bell, possibly the number 2 pass catcher in Cleveland this season. Williams, Jamal, Sony Michel may or may not make that team, but if he makes that team, we saw him do damage for the Rams last season. And there's always possibility that Raheem Mostert gets injured, and Chase Edmonds is not the type of guy who can handle 20 plus touches a game on a week in, week out basis. So in the case that Mostert cannot go, and if Michelle makes the team, this pick ends up being very strong from there. Edwards moving to Atlanta, like that a lot better than his role on Las Vegas was. Conklin and Bryant to round it out and hopefully maybe give me a week here or there that's viable, because we're going to have to lean on Mark Andrews a ton. Thank you guys for watching. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.